what are the industries that Sequoia, what are the areas that Sequoia is right now looking to? Are you willing to give us a clue, a hint, a cue?
We're bottoms-up driven, so we have gaming companies, semiconductors, clean tech, storage, security, so we're pretty much up and down the stack and across the IT ecosystem. So like you, we see many of your C companies. We're very active across just about every sector.
Like you say the elephant to the cockroach.
You have all the good companies.
Moshe, you gave us a very inspiring and detailed talk. And I would like to take advantage when you are sitting next to the VC to ask you about the role of VCs in the local industry. How do you see it as Microsoft?
I don't know if it was a detailed talk. I actually felt that it was lacking details. But the role of VCs is actually extremely important. And I think that beyond giving, basically funding these amazing entrepreneurs with their bright ideas, I think that there is another role which is so far has been partially fulfilled, and it really changes from one VC to another. You said, Randy, that we should keep our hands off those startups. What pushes those startups to our hands are the VCs, and I think that the lack of patience. This is also part of the sort of the public discussion. How can the government, for example, help VCs be more patient, or entrepreneurs be more patient? And I think that's a key question. And if you ask me about the role of VCs, I think it's helping us and helping those entrepreneurs grow large companies. I do believe that the type of experience that those young engineers experience in our R&D center, the way we think about go-to-market, the way we think about building scale, the way you train people to be a little bit more patient in order to get to these mega-billion-dollar companies, that's the role that we fulfill in creating those crown jewels, and I believe that the VCs have a role to play there as well. And I think we see some of that leadership here in the United States with Kleiner Perkins in the way they think about creating ecosystem and growing large companies. I haven't seen as much of that happening in Israel. I would love to see more of that.
Heather, can you give the microphone to Heather? Heather, the first time we met, I think, was 3 or 4, okay, so 3 or 4 years ago here when you were in charge of business development for Fox Digital. I think you just moved to your new office, or maybe it was more than 4 years. Then I met you in San Francisco. Last week I met you in New York. So we have the triangle: Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco. What do you think Los Angeles can do in the digital area with Israel and in general? How do you see Los Angeles compared to San Francisco as New York? You have a very good lens to evaluate the 3 places, and how you foresee the relationship between Los Angeles specifically and Israel in the high-tech area?
Yeah, well, I would say that there's been a long-standing relationship on the entertainment side of the business and with media, and the more that you see the convergence happening between media and tech and the blending there, I think this is a very exciting time for what's happening in the video segment of the market. And so I think that there are some natural ties that will be strengthening between Israel and Los Angeles specifically. But I think one of the other things that we're seeing is the New York marketplace popping back up. That was the rationale for the conference that we held there last week. There's a tremendous amount of vibrancy happening in many metro centers, and I think the fact that you have this opportunity both at both ends of the market. So one of the debates that we held last week was sort of the lean versus fat startup, and there are tremendous opportunities on both sides of that. Saludo was an example of a company that actually, although it was launching, it had taken more than $7 million in funding, and that was up against other early stage startups who really hadn't needed any capital to develop product. And so just see tremendous amount of vibrancy in the market with advertising supported businesses.
Okay, by the way, you mentioned Saludo. I would like to mention that 2 years ago in TechCrunch 50 in San Francisco, out of 50 contenders 8 were Israelis, which I think it's not bad as a proportion. Anybody, Sharona is making hysterical gesture to us that we should go off the stage. As you can understand, we introduced some Israeli spirit into the schedule of this program. Timetable as in Israel, you know, time and red light in Israel are not instructions, they are propositions. You know, you can follow it and just 1 minute. Let me give credit to Sharona, you know, because Sharona has done unbelievable work. Being a co-chairman was a pleasure. I mean a pleasure if you are immersed in the Jewish pleasure of suffering, you know, because she used to call me like 3:30 o'clock in the morning. She had an idea and we should talk about. She put together, this is already the 2nd year, and 3rd year it will be terrific, and I think put together a wonderful event that nobody believed can be put together. I can tell you that the government officials who are here are really in shock and awe. This is the American Express. So Sharona, on behalf of all of us, thank you very much. You really have done great work. Personally, I like
Wait, Yossi, I don't see a problem with calling you at 3:30 in the morning. It's right after my lunch. I'm relaxed. It's a good time for me, right?
Yeah.
So, and I like the deviation of responsibility. She do the work, I take the credit. I love this arrangement. Yes, please.